This is part 2 to document the building of the dirt bike trailer. So I've made a little progress since the first video. I've added some rails. This is just some formed 125 wall scrap that I had laying around. This came out of a dumpster for some project. That's actually a good look at the tow vehicle. That is a 2017 Subaru Forester. A 2-inch lift kit, 15-inch wheels, 30-inch tires, Bilstein struts with King springs on each corner, and a lot of other stuff. The decision to go ahead and remove these fenders, probably come out about 16 inches wide at the top, have a nice big flat surface up here. Those will taper down and then go to some type of stepboard skirting assembly, something like that. I just got in some dimple dies, so I'm pretty excited to try those out, to probably come in and dimple some tread around this area. So today the project is going to be to get the rack finished, get the fenders removed, get the light brackets removed, maybe remove these brackets. They're not terribly in the way right now, but while I have everything out. They use typical trailer deck screws. You're going to find these 18 wheeler trailers, big flat decks, loader haulers, 16-foot trailers, 18, 24, things like that, where you have really long runs of wood, or where you have breaks where you're joining two pieces of wood on one cross member like this. So for smaller trailers like this, I don't really like to use those. Jesus, crisis averted. I don't really like to use those on smaller trailers. The reason being, it is so simple just to lay your runs down. It's even easier if, like when you don't have this on here. If you're doing this on a traditional utility trailer, just run them all the way to the front. Take a piece of flat stock, 1/8 inch is fine for this. Get it into a corner, run to that side, have someone stand on it, put some weight on it, weld it over here, weld it over there, put a couple stitch welds out through here, and you're good. The front's secured. Come to the back and just take a piece of angle iron and run a piece of angle iron right here. Going to allow the wood to do is to expand and contract without any issue. It's also not going to give a place for your wood to rot out. The only places where your grains are exposed really is on each end. And before we put those in there, I'll probably coat those. There's the water tank that will end up probably somewhere in this area. That way all the plumbing will come off of it. Here I would like to have a position for the batteries, the pumps, the electronics, and things like that. Places to plug into. This trailer, hopefully we have time to add some exterior lights around it. But as I said in the first video, I'm down to less than 3 weeks. So the crunch is on, and I'm gonna get started. Change of pace, we decided to move the roof tent support back a little bit. That's going to move the whole thing back. The front tire of the dirt bikes will come in to around here. We'll split that section in half, probably form some type of enclosed box right here that will have drawer access from this side. Feature it just like a big cabinet. That probably won't get built before this maiden voyage to Utah. Fenders have been cut off. I'm definitely going to make some short fenders. Went ahead and trimmed off the lights, cut down the brackets that were here for the gate on the rear. One tip when using cut-off wheels on grinders and you're needing to remove something, treat your arbor as if it were a guide. Similar to in the earlier video where I used the pattern cutting bit in the router. Come flat and make sure that your disc is sitting flat. You don't want to go up or down. You don't want to cut into the material that you're trying to save. So let that arbor rest up against it and just walk that grinder right through there. I can just come back, sand this smooth, and you can't even tell that it was there. And you don't have any deep gouges or anything like that in it. So what I think I'm gonna do, the roof tent is a 23-0 walkabout 62, which means it's about 62 to 64 inches wide. The mounting rails underneath it are about 5 feet, somewhere around 59 to 60 inches from tip to tip. These two vertical braces here and here, these are 50.5 inches to the outer edges. We're gonna get the roof rack, or the rack tent, we're gonna get the tent rack put on first, get that welded out fully. That should stiffen a lot of things up. I've decided I'm not gonna run any bracing in here. I'll let the structure itself of everything that I'm making be the bracing for it. Other thing that's really handy about moving this entire system back and staying near these two vertical braces is that that puts me really close to the spring hanger. So all of that load from the roof tent down is transferred to the spring into the axle, into the wheel, into the ground, you know, and so forth. So all that load, the heaviest part of the load, is centered right here. The roof tent weighs, I believe it's around 150 pounds. I'm about 300 pounds. I know better than to speculate her weight. She's a human being who weighs pounds. And so, you know, having all that weight, not more towards one or the other and pretty centered, I think that's going to make it a little more stable. There will be some stabilizer jacks on the back, although I don't know if I'm just going to do some type of sleeve system that just drops down to the ground, and then you crank the front jack, that lifts it up, tightens everything up, and just keeps it stable. Not sure yet. Changed some plans up. Gonna reuse all these deck boards. Trying to keep this thing budget minded, so they're not in terrible shape. Sand those down, throw a little coating on them, take off. One thing I did notice, and I guess I just haven't, it didn't register until now, this rear brace is a piece of angle iron and it's turned down, so that's gonna catch everything. I'll just cut it right here, flip that, I'll turn it this way, and then the boards can sit into there, and then I'll cap it. So the main reason I put the dirt bikes on here was so that this axle would travel back as far as it's going to. You can see now, that'll be the shackle angle when this is pretty much loaded and going down the road. Now the leaf spring's kind of taken over, and that's where the rest of the suspension movement is going to come from. So that means that this axle distance is not changing, and that'll allow me to fix the fenders onto here. One thing I've been thinking about, it's going to take a little extra time, but I'm considering notching these when they fit underneath here, notching this portion out, so that way the top of the fender is flush, and that just kind of extends your totally flat surface here. Deep clamp right here, this really deep C clamp, it doesn't get used very often, but when you need it, you need it. It doesn't really clamp well, barely more than what a spring clamp would do. just because of how much flex you get as you tighten it up. It just opens right up. How is it always done every time? We'll change the plan up a little bit on the fenders. I think just straight down is going to be great. You can't really square anything on this trailer because it's been twisted and warped. I want to take this edge here and cut a strip from that corner all the way to this corner. Thinking about doing the same thing here to here. Square enough. Square enough. Well, to be honest with you, it's 10 and an eighth-ish. Yeah, I can live with it. I got both of the skirt pieces, as I've just taken to calling them. So the front one worked out perfect where that was just high enough for the plate to clear and go underneath it. I did have to cope out for this piece of angle iron running on the exterior right here. That butted up perfectly. The rear one fits in here nice and snug, and it's hard to do it with two hands, but when that all pushes up, comes out even. It's kind of hard with one hand, but you get the idea. I did find the best way to lay those out. It's a lot quicker. Basically, I pull my long side measurement right here, make that mark there, and then I'm watching for 10 and an eighth here as I slide that, and I just keep working these two together while remaining on this point until I have a nice 90-degree angle coming down to here, and that's it. Drops right in when you do that. So now all the corner skirt pieces are cut. I'm laying them out. I want to do a series of dimples. Just got a knockout set. If you don't know what this is, it's a hydraulic knockout set. Electricians use them mostly. Super handy for just punching big holes. It gives you a much more accurate hole than, say, a hole saw would. Then I'll use these. Some recently purchased dimple dies. They do work with the knockout press. They actually, I'm not sure if they made them for it, but it definitely works. Found them on eBay. UTV distribution. Just in a set of knockout punches that will work with hydraulic punch driver kit. I paid for those. I did knock my holes out a little too close to the edge. Couldn't get my lower die in, so ended up having to notch that out just a little bit. Not gonna hurt anything. I wanted to give a quick look at the setup here. I'm just using one smaller size knockout. The outer lip of this fits on this top ring. So this is another die. And what I'm doing is I'm just catching this top die on the outer edge. But that was just a quick way to get it together, just to hold back up. I'm not sure if it would work or not, but I'm considering putting a gauge somewhere in line to be able to watch this. That way they can just be more consistent. It would take some playing around, but you could determine what pressure for what thickness of material and type of material to get the look that you want, to get it as proud up as you want, or if you just want a slight dimple, or if you want it to come up and be really sharp and tight, especially on the thinner stuff. Now that all of the steps and skirts are done, probably come back in and do some smaller ones in the spacing, but just in the effort to save time and get this thing as roadworthy as quickly as possible. Just went with the big dies. Not bad. It's gonna be a pretty strong step. We went ahead and threw the roof tent on just to see how that's gonna look. This model, sometimes it has a little trouble whenever you have the ladder sticking out. It'll come out of this slot right here, the one on top. And so what we're thinking about doing is making some standoffs here, the same height as these, as the attachment brackets or the attachment rails. That way whenever you come out, it's not just the ladder supporting you off of this one strip. There's a male side that fits into that. With this piece at the back cut and flipped, There's a lot more ground clearance now. I'd say a lot more, 2 inches. But the biggest thing is it's not just a big drag that can snag on something. I may do a filler plate here just because I took the quick and dirty way out of cutting it down alongside the inner frame rail. Also may make a filler piece for this area, or give it a little pie cut here and just bend that back side up a little bit. Give it a little taper. The next area I'm probably going to work in is mounting the 2 traction boards somewhere right in here, possibly fuel below it, figure out somewhere to put propane. Spare tire will go right here. I decided that the solar panel will come and taper down in the front and act like an air dam, hopefully getting air up over the roof tent. I was able to use a couple of boards that I had laying around for another project to eliminate one board and tighten up all the gaps in between them. Now that I have this rear piece flipped, I just need to come in and add a piece of flat bar, weld it fully on each end, and then come in here, add a few stitch welds throughout, do the same thing right across the front, and that's it. You don't have to use any screws into your decking, because when you do, over time, this is what happens. So most of these boards I flipped. It seemed that the worst side was the sun up side, and I'm assuming that's just from the UV just continually breaking down the wood. Everything doesn't always have to be an exact measurement. There's nothing wrong with just holding stuff up and marking it. Yeah. Should I claim the position?
Yes.
Alright. Now, this.
Ow, my thumb. Ow, my thumb.
Get the thumb.
I'm trying.
Ow, my finger! Right there.
Got the boards.
No, God, that's so, honestly, it was so relieving to look back there earlier. To be honest with you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Don't walk to the top of the
So this is the end of episode 2. Everything is just kind of strapped and wrapped and kind of put in place right now. Like the solar panel is just balanced. But this gives a very good idea of how things are going to be placed. The high lift jack is going to go on the inside of that support of that column right there. We have decided we're going to just buy the trailer tongue toolbox. Everything for now is just tack welded steel. Skirts, fender steps, Did put in some of these cross braces. Put in a couple of cross braces for the traction boards. Still need to weld the bag sides of those. This is a temporary hanging solution just to see how these look. We need to get a couple of locking quick fists and get those permanently secured. The bikes are just secured enough to sit in here, and that way we can see how they're gonna ride. I'm gonna do some type of clamshell mount for the tires on that end, and then probably some type of quick strip in the floor that'll pull down on the peg, so that way the bikes are extremely stable. Over here, this is gonna be the shower. From this corner, we'll come 3 feet, lands about right there on the fender, and it will be a 3-foot square shower that folds out on a couple of arms from the top. Gonna have to figure out how to create a hinge system so that works. Then it'll roll up from the bottom and enclose here. If I were better on a sewing machine, I could probably sew up some kind of pouch. If there's time, I may still give it a try. Just something simple, canvas with a toggle that'll just keep the weather off of it. We have 2 of these panels. This is a piece of equipment that was being thrown away. I'm gonna reinforce it on the backside with some wood, and whatever thickness this is, maybe 1/2 inch. Glue that down so that way it's got a little bit of weight to it, and then put some sealer on it. I think this is gonna make a nice prep table over here for cooking on. And then we've talked about doing another one on this side. They can be dual purpose for the bathroom. And then that would be its fixed position there. Fuel cans, need to find a way to secure those. We're gonna carry 2 5-gallon steel cans and then a 2-gallon can for mixed gas for the 2-stroke. Still trying to figure out how we're going to secure our chairs. That's a couple of chairs, tables, probably bring a couple kids chairs. Need to get a mount for that fire extinguisher. I like having the fire extinguisher out and exposed. Thought process behind that is that if someone else were passing by your camp, while you know where your fire extinguisher is, others don't. So anybody else that's camping with you or passing by can always help you out if your fire extinguisher is exposed like that. That is why when you see commercial trucks, it'll always say on the doors where the fire extinguisher is located, whether it's inside the door of a toolbox or inside the cab. This is a 16-gallon water tank. There'll be a 12-volt pump. The hose will come out and it will follow this channel. That will come out here. That'll be part of the shower system. There will also be a filler nozzle that will be located probably back here somewhere, and I'm thinking about just using something that's designed for an RV. That's it.